Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Freedom to Formulate podcast. I'm your host, Dave Barbash, here at Freedom to Formulate. Got a very special guest today. This is Dr. Stacy Shropshire. She's the founder of Evolution Body Transformation at a results-driven medical wellness clinic in Monona, Wisconsin. Super happy to have you here. You've got a focus in the clinic on hormone optimization, medical weight loss, metabolic reset, and personalized nutrient therapy. Now, Stacy helps both men and women, particularly in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. That would sort of fit I'm on the end of that spectrum there, helping restore energy, rebuild strength, and feel confident in their bodies again. Her approach blends advanced diagnostics, which we can identify here at Freedom to Formulate and Personalized Nutrients, with individualized protocols, including bioidentical hormone pelleting, GLP-1 assisted weight loss, peptide therapy, and customized nutritional supplementation, which is something that we can very identify with. Stacy believes that midlife is not a decline, thank God for that. It's an opportunity for reinvention when the right support systems are in place. She is passionate about empowering clients with education, clear action steps, and sustainable strategies that create long-term vitality. So without further ado, welcome, Stacy. It's great to see you as always.
Thank you for having me. This is really fun.
Yeah, likewise. I think the passion comes through every time I talk to you. The passion comes through about your willingness to help people. And you have obviously your own journey, and maybe start out by sharing what was the main driver about what led you to start Evolution Body Transformation, and maybe some of the patterns that you sort of started to see in some of these midlife clients.
Absolutely. So I'm classically trained as a chiropractor. When I was 24, I graduated from college and fresh-faced got into started a chiropractic clinic because I guess I had less brain power than fear. So I was like, I can do this. Let's do this, right? And
That's awesome.
I was always super interested in nutrition, even way back then. So I actually ended up getting a digestive additional postdoc degree. And
Right.
it was this is like in the, late 90s. I'm talking to people about vitamin C and taking vitamins and doing detox cleanses. And everyone just looked at me like I had lobsters crawling out of my ears, and I'm spending 45 minutes trying to explain to people why vitamin C and vitamin D are necessary. And I'm thinking, why am I doing this? And they'll buy maybe one bottle from me and then they'll go get it from Costco. So I kind of diverted away from that just because it just it wasn't taking off. So fast forward, I have kids. My hormones go crazy. I started getting rosacea. I started getting cystic acne. I gained a whole bunch of weight. I felt inflamed and tired all of the time and thought, I think I need to revisit my roots and get back into this
Wow.
detox cleanse stuff. And over the years, of course, there's been so many innovations in this industry now. We have so many tools that we didn't have back then. So
True.
it just really felt like a good time to sort of put everything together and just kind of let my freak flag fly of everything that I'm excited and passionate about and really put it toward, especially, I mean, we work with men, but kind of our main focus is kind of that woman
Women,
going
yeah,
through
going through
menopause
midlife.
because there just aren't a lot of solutions for that. And you go to your regular Western doctor and they don't even test your hormones, number one. And then they just sort of pat you on the head and say, oh, you'll work through it and it'll get better. And then things just sort of start to degrade. So with the advent of the hormone testing and the pelleting, this was just been such a power in the clinic to help people feel like themselves again. I mean, I feel like I wish I would have known this when I was
Mhm.
premenopausal and really kind of geared myself through that perimenopause phase. And maybe I wouldn't have had all that acne because I just had so much estrogen, right? And there's so much estrogen in the environment, right? Every time you turn around,
Xenoestrogens, yeah.
there's inundated with estrogen, water bottles and plastics and Starbucks cups and everywhere, right? It's all leaching into and affects men too, of course, with testosterone. But women actually make 3 times as much testosterone in their lifetime as they do estrogen, which nobody talks about. I feel like I need to put a billboard up to tell how important testosterone is for women. And of course,
Exactly.
like products like yours, like the wonderful Estrometab, to help men and women break down all that external estrogen that's been in their environment. So it's been just really fun. I'm excited about helping people feel better and regaining confidence and just not turning into that old sea witch, foam witch from The Little Mermaid, like everybody just expects you're 55 years old, just go become a sea witch. You know what I mean? It's kind
Yeah,
of,
well, I think when, I'm 60, I think when I grew up in the 70s, you thought about somebody at 60, you thought it was your grandparents and you're gonna be walking around with a cane and
right.
not mobile, and that was
Yeah.
sort of the beginning of the decline. But yet I think now with the advent of, deeper dive on functional medicine testing, better access to, healthier food, technologies, different exercise, different equipment, different resources, more farms, more food access, more health information.
Mhm.
And obviously with AI, that literally instant access to information is
Right.
also there. But it also means that you have to be very diligent to go through that information and make
Correct.
sure
Yes.
what's right, what's not right.
Right.
What was the moment then that you realized that hormones and nutrients needed to be addressed together?
I guess, like I said, I've always been interested in nutrition, so that's always been in my wheelhouse. It's just, it was just the education component, how to get this out to the masses and how to really introduce this and make people aware of the fact that not only is it important to take good nutrition and convince people that you know, we're eating food. Why, it's just you start on this conversation and it's just such a big
Mhm.
topic, right? Like the farming, you got to go back to the
Yeah,
soil. You literally have
yeah,
to start at the beginning. So I guess I've always been super passionate and excited about that, and it's always something that I love to just. I laugh and say, just give me a soapbox at any given moment, and I'll launch into a dissertation about nutrition. So that's always been really near and dear to my heart. The hormones I kind of learned about. Gosh, it was probably in 2017. But being a
well,
chiropractor, that was a little bit harder for me to integrate into the practice because I'm relying on other people with additional licenses, right? So we sort of had the bits and pieces put together to kind of launch it, and then somebody would leave, or I had found a wonderful nurse practitioner and she moved to Florida, and it just was constantly all these setbacks. So really within the last, gosh, I don't know, year, we've just kind of all the pieces magically have put together, and the universe has brought me some great providers, and we just have a really amazing crew. And so nutrition was kind of the foundation, but I found that the hormones really amplify what we were
yeah,
doing with the nutrition. So it kind of was the other way around in my experience. And so the hormones have kind of been one of a newer addition to the practice, but I just feel like it's helping so many people, especially getting the testosterone to the women and the men. They're
yeah.
just, feeling so much better. My husband was kind of like point A on one of our first guinea pigs. And we
Was
did
he?
it. I was always suspicious that he had low T. He didn't really have any classical symptoms of low T, but I just, just given what I know about the environment and the plastics and the estrogen and all the
Yeah, xenoestrogens and yeah.
yeah, so I was always suspicious, but then I thought, well, if we do the testing and we find out that he has low T, where would I even go with him? Like, I don't even have a provider to send him to, right? So we tested him and he was actually at 179 testosterone. And that's not good for a woman, right?
Wow.
And not to nag my husband, but he's kind of like the classic big guy. Like he's 6'6", and he just, if you irritate him, he defers to short, angry, and it
Yeah.
just a quick flare, it goes away. He's not angry all the time. But so I was just like, oh my gosh, if we get him to normal testosterone levels, I mean, what am I gonna, this could be we living with the Incredible Hulk. And it was just absolutely the opposite. He's got this
Opposite.
really big, stressful job, and his office is not very far from our home. So when he leaves work, very oftentimes he'll still be decompressing from the office and all the experiences that he had to
Mhm,
muddle through that day. And he'd get home and he'd take that out on me and the kids. But when we got him up to normal
mhm.
testosterone levels and on the estrogen metabs to actually help him metabolize all that estrogen he was getting,
Yeah.
he's actually extraordinarily more patient. It's really interesting. And he feels better. He's sleeping better. He's got more energy. It just helps with muscle mass and bone density and all the things. So yeah, it's just been a wonderful tool.
That's great. What you mentioned about the testing, obviously you need to have the blueprint before, to get an
Right.
idea, a map of what you're
Correct.
working with. But the difference between you mentioned initially with conventional when with doctors way back when you would go and you more conventional testing. The difference between reference ranges and these optimal ranges,
Right.
because sometimes a man, for instance, could go and get his T scores and say, "Oh, you're within range," but what is the reference range you're using?
Correct.
Sometimes they could be, hey, you're not out of range, you're in perfect health. And they could say that maybe 400 is optimal, but in another range reference, you want to be at least 6 to 800, or if not.
Right.
So what have you learned over sort of in this journey when you're going through in terms of hormones, the reference ranges versus not just relying on reference ranges, but
Correct.
also what are the optimal ranges? What have you
Yeah.
learned from that?
Well, a lot of people don't know, I'm sure you do, but how they assess those reference ranges is what they do is they collaborate all of the labs from the year across the United States. They send it to a centralized lab and they put it on a bell curve, right? And they say, here's the ranges that we're seeing in these labs across the United States this year, correct? But who are the people that are mostly getting tested? Is it healthy people or sick people, right? So I
Yes.
think our reference ranges are really skewed, first off. So I think everything is not in a normal range because of that. They've been doing that for years. So it just keeps getting
Mhm.
worse and worse and worse every year, right? And so then the other piece of the puzzle is once you go to you get your traditional labs done and they say, well, you're just kind of like in the lower range, but let's just wait till it gets into the bad zone and then we'll do something about it. Then we'll give you something to help the symptoms that you're getting, right? But
Yeah.
if you look at the trend of everything, right, you can say, gosh, instead of just letting this fall off the cliff, let's employ some strategic nutrition and make some lifestyle changes. And let's, think about how much protein you're getting and how much vitamin D. And let's see if we can't get that back up into a normal range. So we're not just falling off the
Yeah.
cliff and trying to mitigate these symptoms that happen when you fall off the cliff, right? I always tell people, I'd like to speak in analogies, but I always tell people that what I like to do is let's just say you invited me over to your house for dinner and we had this lovely dinner and I'm walking out and I see that you have a tennis ball on your stairs. And I don't say the next day you call me and you say, Stacy, you're not going to believe it. After you left, I was walking up the stairs, had the lights off. I tripped on this tennis ball that was on my stairs and I fell down and I broke my leg in 6 places. And I'm scheduled to have orthopedic surgery next week.
Oh,
And it's amazing that they can fix your leg and do orthopedic surgery. I mean, there's been so many innovations. That's wonderful. But if I just would have said, hey, there's a tennis ball on your stairs, Dave, we wouldn't have
yep.
been in this situation. And so what I like to do is I like to look through people's labs and I like to find those tennis balls, right? And we just get those off the stairs and just help, you know what I mean? And just prevent those things from happening.
That's really great. When it comes to this generic health advice that we typically see in conventional medicine, where it's almost like a one size fits all approach. That
Oh,
five
absolutely.
people come in a row with a headache, rather than finding out the source of the headache. If it's different radiation, is it sharp? Is it throbbing?
Sure.
Doing a deeper dive, it's just like, okay, well, here's a prescription. Five the same people, the same prescription, and yet you know the underlying cause might be different in each of the five people.
Absolutely.
So what do you do in terms of what does the testing take away, the type of testing that you're doing takes away that guesswork? Do you start to see these patterns developing in the labs? And why does personalization matter? Because each person's obviously got unique microbiome, they've got unique neurotransmitter levels, they've got unique testosterone levels, they've got unique genetics as well. And they've
Absolutely.
also got different environments.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So there just is no one size fits all. You just have to look at the labs and look at the trends and just, start saying, gosh, all of these things sort of are in a cascade together. And this is a concert that your body is playing, right? And you just have to look at the overall trends and figure out where the break point is and just support and supplement those and to try and push the physiology back in a more normal direction. I have another analogy for you if you're up for it. But
Yeah,
if you think
always.
about like just blood pressure, for example, right? They're always saying, "Oh, your blood pressure's high. Your blood pressure's high." Well, let's just say that you're treading water, right? And you have a backpack on your backpack, right? You're treading water and everything's fine and you're doing okay. Well, all of a sudden we start putting stuff in your backpack and now you have to tread water more, right? So your blood pressure is going to go up and it should go up because your physiology needs your higher blood pressure to support that more swimming, right?
Exactly
But
right.
if you don't when you go in and they say, well, we need to do something about this blood pressure, we need to get the blood pressure down, but they're not doing anything about the rocks in your backpack. You know what I mean? You're actually fighting your own, what should be a normal physiological response to stress by trying to interfere with just the symptom rather than looking in the backpack to find the cause.
Yeah, sometimes we just immediately rush to shut off the symptomology and not
Right.
look at the root cause.
I
And
mean, it
sometimes
makes
that
sense.
signal might be literally giving you a clearer blueprint. what's
Right.
going on in the body. But if you constantly shutting off the symptomology, you might not get to the actual root cause. This is really awesome what you're doing. So when it comes to you're seeing a lot of, women and men fluctuation of hormones, obviously toxic environment, many different factors, stressors, the gut hormone connection. It's a big thing.
Oh my
But
gosh, yes.
sometimes they forget about focusing on the gut as well. And then the incessance of focusing on total cholesterol, where we're artificially driving down the cholesterol too low, and
Right.
you need the cholesterol to form the hormones. And you
Of
talk
course.
about testosterone
Right.
without
It's a
that
building block.
fat and lipid, you
Right.
cannot form that. Cholesterol is
Correct.
needed
Correct.
to manufacture the hormone. So I think maybe dive in and you mentioned one of the products that you have in terms of focusing on the detoxing the estrogen, the synthetic estrogens,
Mm.
creating that balance, the estrogen, progesterone ratios, improving those, and also the testosterone ratios. But also maybe get into the importance of like maybe GLP-1s and importance of maybe why, if you're taking GLP-1s, and why protein and collagen or HMB
Right.
are important other factors to support.
Yeah, absolutely. So GLP-1s are an amazing tool, right? But they're just one tool. And you can use them very strategically, or you can use them kind of you can use them in a harmful way, right? So we can really, so all the research shows that if you give someone this medication and they lose all this weight, they can very easily crash 40% of their muscle mass. And muscle is our anti-aging organ. We need muscle. The more muscle we have in
It's the
our
longevity hormone.
absolutely every research paper shows that.
Yeah.
It's very clear. So protein, of course, is so important. Number one, people need to eat protein, and I'm always telling people like on this medication, you need to eat your protein first because you're not going to be as full, right? Or you're going to get fuller faster. So if you've got your pasta and your chicken, and you think, oh, I'm getting my pasta first because I like it better, you're not going to eat your
Mhm.
chicken, and then when we get you down to your goal weight, your muscle's going to be crashed, and we're going to be in a worse place than we are right now. So if that's the situation, let's not even start this journey, right? But
That's right.
there's some other things that I think are just non-negotiable. Like you were kind enough to help me formulate a really nice collagen with HMB and the Hydro Peach because I have
Yeah.
a kind of an aesthetic component to my practice as well too to help with
Mhm.
skin. But skin tone and elasticity is something that can really play a big part in how people feel about themselves after they lost the weight. I've had people
Absolutely.
come
Yeah.
in, not that they worked with me on the GLPs, but I've had ladies come in and they're like, I lost 100 pounds on the GLPs and I look worse than I did when I was plump. I wish I could have that 100 pounds back because I just feel terrible in my skin now. So I think collagen and HMB are just non-negotiable when someone's on a
Mhm.
GLP, just to support muscle mass. HMB is amazing for, um, you know, preventing muscle breakdown. And it's just such an easy thing to do. I mean, you just literally put a little bit
Super
in
easy.
coffee. You don't even notice it's there. How could that be easier?
Yeah, I had my own shoulder injury in HMB. Really, I went into sarcopenia mode, and the HMB was really just easy. It just basically, I was doing a half a teaspoon twice a day, mix it in my drinks,
Yeah.
and it was just super easy. And inflammatory markers started to turn with the other product stuff I was doing on the protocol, but collagen and protein are an important part of my regime. And I'm a long distance runner, but I think without it, you get more muscle breakdown.
Oh,
You don't
absolutely. Same.
recover as quick. You notice
Right.
on HMB the recovery time. And my skin, I've been doing the Hydro Peach. Now it's new for me in my PN protocol, but I'm 60 years old, but my
Yeah. You look great.
tone is as good as it was probably in my 40s and 30s.
Yeah.
So I think anybody listening to this broadcast, what Stacey's doing, it is about, it's an evolution. It has to be, change is an evolution of the persons. We're supposed to evolve as people. And
Right.
so you don't get to a certain age and just stop evolving.
Yeah. So
We
anybody
need to
listening, for
continue
real,
to
call Dave and have him hook you up with my formula that he made for me because it's amazing. We can't keep it on the shelf, and people. We ran out this
evolve.
week, and like it's been terrible. I promise it's coming. I promise. But yeah, people have stopped in 3, 4 times. Like, is it back yet? And I'm like, I'm supposed to be here this week. I promise. Yeah,
Well,
we
you
just missed
mentioned
it.
about the change, right? With obviously the pros, the people that are on the GLP but the high dose one, if they are having some of that potential effects of the muscle loss, some of it being, on the weight loss being potentially some of it being muscle loss, you have a tool with Stacy's product to counteract that and
Yes.
still balance out the equation. And now, hey, I've got a healthier weight loss. I'm supporting with these other nutrients. I might be supporting mitochondrial. I might be supporting against the muscle, guarding against the muscle loss. I now have more energy while I'm doing the weight loss. So really, really great advice. Also, when it comes to why weight loss without preserving the muscle, explain why it's a long-term mistake if you do the GLPs and you don't guard against and preserve this muscle, the quality of muscle for longevity, especially. Why that, and why the importance of resistance training and protein as well?
Yeah. Well, it's the classic thing, when people don't get so one of the ways people lose weight with the GLP medications, it helps with blood sugar regulation, all kinds of things. But what it legitimately does is it causes you to eat less, right? So you're just not as hungry. You feel fuller faster. GLP is a society hormone, right, that we have in our bodies.
Yeah.
We're amplifying that hormone. So we feel fuller faster. We get satisfied faster.
Mhm.
So if you're not eating as many calories, of course, your body can go into starvation mode. And because muscle is so much more metabolic active than fat is, if the body in homeostasis, it wants to make sure everything's running as smoothly as it can with the least amount of energy. So if we don't have enough energy to support that muscle, the body's going to say, well, let's get this out of here, right? We can't support this. We need to make this go away. And that's where they're finding on the GLP studies that people can actually crash about 40% of their metabolism or 40% of the muscle mass throughout
Muscle
the
mass, yeah.
timeline of losing the weight, which is a terrible place to be because once you've lost the weight, if you're just skinny fat, right,
Yeah.
then the weight's going to come right back on. So you crash your metabolism. Now you don't have enough skeletal muscle to support what you need to do. So muscle is protective. It's good for posture, all those good things. So you're more at risk for injuries, more at risk for back pain,
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
fractures. Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I just think that collagen, there's just no reason not to take collagen. Collagen is the most widely studied supplement, I believe, is what I've read in of all of them. Like, there's just no reason possibly you could ever come up
Yeah.
with to not take collagen. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, especially if you're in the demographic that you're serving. You're serving the 40s to 60 range group, 40s, 50s, and 60s primarily. And it, for me, who is 60, I started doing collagen about 15 years ago when I was in my sort of mid 40s. I first dabbled with it in my sort of late 30s, went off it for a while. But then once I started seeing some of these changes in labs, I said, hey, I need to hit it hard. So I really back up what you're saying. When you get to this age, this 40 to 60 age group, why, let's maybe talk a little bit about why the importance of checking out not just standard labs, but looking at hormones, gut, metabolism, metabolomics, and so forth. Why do a deeper dive when you're in that 40 to 60 age group?
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing it sooner either. Like if somebody's having
Yeah,
issues with perimenopause, it seems
of
like
course.
women are going
Yeah.
into menopause much earlier than they
Oh, a
used to.
lot earlier. A lot earlier.
So I'm not saying it's just something in your 40s, but I just think it's important for everyone to kind of get a blueprint and see what's going on with their body,
Yeah,
right? Because if you don't
absolutely.
know, you're guessing. And all these symptoms can just slowly start to creep up on you, and suddenly they feel like something that's normal, right? Or it's just normal aging or something like that. And then suddenly your lifestyle is completely, diminished because of all of these random symptoms that clearly, if we would have looked at them and said, okay, here's your symptom, and that's
Yeah.
what we do here, right? We do the labs, we give you a nice big symptom breakdown, and we correlate the two, and we say, gosh, here's what you're feeling, and here's probably why that's feeling, and let's take some of those rocks out of your backpack and put some good nutrition in your system, and focus on lifestyle changes, like even just everybody thinks they need to start going to the gym and start doing this bigger, exercise routine. And maybe they're not metabolically fit enough to even do that, right? Let's just
Yep.
start with reducing your cortisol and start with some breathing exercises. And let's just start figuring out how to get you to relax. You know what I mean? Let's get you some
Stress
sleep.
is a big thing. And you know what? I have a 96, well, almost 96-year-old mum who lives with us, as well as my mother-in-law who's 80. And even if you're not able to get to the gym, 5 to 7 minutes, you can have somebody like my mum follow a video, sitting in a chair and do some exercises. She makes sure that she goes out with her walker down the street to the top of the street on the way back. Something, but you use it or you lose it. So
Correct.
make sure that you're doing some form of relaxation, something to deal with the stress, getting some movement, even if it's, when I had the shoulder injury when I first started back, I was following a fitness trainer out of Scotland, Fraser Wilson, and it was a 7-minute ab video. 7 minutes. I thought, you can't do 7 minutes. What's that going to do? But I tell you what, 7 minutes, you'll be amazed.
Yeah.
Just 7 minutes. And you
Yeah.
find the starting point is really great. And before we go, I know you've got a new product coming in
Yes, I'm so
that we're
excited about that.
super
Thank you for
excited
telling me about
about.
that.
Talking about GLP-1, it's called Diglofit,
Mhm,
is the main ingredient that will be in it. I know we have the Reset product coming
mhm.
in. Some of the data on it is pretty insane. In a 16-week trial, 195% increase in GLP-1
Yeah,
secretion,
that's awesome.
endogenous. But on the lipid side of it, just on the cholesterol markers and anti-inflammatory markers, we're talking 55% increase in HDL, 49% drop in LDL, 43% drop in total cholesterol, 69.5% drop in triglycerides, and 17% drop in CRP, C-reactive protein. In addition, 10% change in insulin and a 27 pounds average weight loss in the test group. Now, it was a
That's
high
amazing.
BMI test group, not your traditional. It was 36 BMI. However, even the diastolic and systolic, the blood pressure changes were shown in the study as well. So super excited that you've formulated these new formulas, one that's going to affect like stress and mood, and then another one that's going to focus on the cardiometabolic support. And
Yeah.
super
I'm
excited
so
about
excited
that.
to get this here. Not everybody wants to be on a GLP, and I
Exactly
don't
right.
blame them. We don't have long-term data on this, right? We've worked with
Yep,
them with diabetics for a long time and we've got good data there, but we don't know. And a lot of
yep.
places are just handing these out like candy, right? You might as well just put a vending machine out in front of some of these clinics and they can just, get their own GLPs out of it. So I feel like that's going to be a nice avenue for people that are concerned, and rightly they should be, or cautious, I should say, but
Yeah.
also for people that are looking to get off the GLPs, right?
Yeah, with clinical data to support it. So if you're worried about, okay, well, hey, I do have some potential concerns, but can I find something that is also safety tested and has
Mhm.
clinical data behind it? And this dicrostacus glomerata, known as Diglofit, 10 peer-reviewed studies, double-blind placebo-controlled studies, plant-based grass, which is generally recognized as safe. Safety data in the studies, super, and something that's super convenient. So we're super excited, Stace. As always great to talk to you. Let's in future we can have other topics to discuss, but I appreciate you taking the time out
Yeah, you bet.
every day and
Thanks.
sharing your
Nice to
wisdom
talk to you
with
too,
us.
as evidenced by our 45-minute sales calls.
Awesome.